All right. Hello, everybody. My name is
Hello,
Estrella
everybody.
Mejia.
My
I'm
name is
the
Estela Mejia
Associate at Indiana Latino
Indiana
Institute.
Latino Institute.
I primarily serve the
I primarily
Marion-Dade
serve the
County
Marion-Dade
within the
County
education
within the education
college prep program where I help high
college
school
prep program
students
where I
get
help
ready
high
for
school
college
get ready
or
for
whatever their
college
plans may
or
look
whatever
like
their plans
after
may
high
look
school.
like
So if you're
after
new
high
here,
school.
welcome.
So
If
if
you're
you're
not,
new
welcome
here,
back.
welcome. If you're not, welcome
Welcome back to
back.
our trade school in our
Welcome back to our
series where we
trade
are
school series
highlighting
where we
lots of
are
important
highlighting lots of
these
important
organizations in
organizations
Indianapolis and in the state of
Indianapolis and
Indiana
in the
that
state of
you can take
Indiana that
a look
you
into.
look
And I would
into.
love to
And I
introduce
would like to
Berger.
introduce Berger. Hello, everybody. My name is Claire Berger, and I am the Program Development Specialist and also the Outreach Manager for the Central Midwest Regional Council of Carpenters. We manage several different kinds of apprenticeships that we'll get into here in this presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And please tell us a little bit about what this is
What this is
and who you guys are.
and who you guys are. Sure. So I developed this presentation, and during this presentation, we're going to tell you a little bit. I'll tell you about who we are as an organization. I'll also let you know about the programs, the training, and the certifications that we offer, the application process, where we're located. I think that's kind of important to most people, right? And how to get started in a good, strong career in the construction industry. And this can be a career, it's not just a job. So we always try to emphasize that this is a career just as much as being in banking can be a career, or education in career. So this isn't a second choice. This could be people's primary choice. So yeah, next. Okay, before I go any further, I want to explain this whole slew of acronyms right here. Um, so we are a good career choice, but we don't make things easy for people to understand who we are and what we
Mhm.
do. So our overarching brand is the Central Midwest Carpenters Regional Council of Carpenters, and CMRCC. So that is Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. And you might consider that to be the parent company of the union. Okay. Um, this is usually, whenever I refer to Central Midwest Carpenters, I'm referring to kind of the business side of the house. Okay. So we're broken down into two different entities. And so the Central Midwest is the business area, where the business reps are the ones who organize new apprentices or bring them in. They also work with our contractors across the state to see what their hiring needs are, because if our contractors aren't hiring, then we don't bring in as many apprentices. I think that kind of makes sense. So we are based on what's going on out there in the bigger picture. The Central Midwest Carpenters are also our political and policy branch of the union. Okay, so I, on the other hand, am in the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio Regional Council of Carpenters, JATF, or ICORC JATF. JATF stands for Joint Apprenticeship Training Fund. If you remember nothing else about that, it just means that we're the education side of the house.
Mhm.
Okay. So when apprentices come in through the Central Midwest Carpenters, through one of the business reps, they're going to be placed with one of our training centers, and that's where they're going to get their classroom training once they enter the apprenticeship. So there are 10 locations throughout Indiana and Kentucky that we train folks at, and then there's 4 in Ohio.
Wonderful.
Indiana and Kentucky run under one director of education. He's my boss. Okay. And Ohio has its own separate director and its own way to handle their training facilities. So there are 3 areas that we train folks for. One is a carpenter, and that is not house building. We don't do house building. We do commercial and industrial. So think about the big industrial and hospital projects, schools, factories, data centers, energy plants, all those kind of things are in our wheelhouse, even road construction. Okay. The millwright is another occupation, and we'll get into that. And then finally, floor covers. So we have 3 different ways that people can be trained. Okay. Shreya, if you would. So this is just a quick look, and this is on our website, of the Indiana and Kentucky training centers. So if you're not familiar with the Kentucky ones, Louisville's pretty easy. Grayson is way over by West Virginia, okay? And Newburgh, Indiana is down by Evansville, so it's right across the river from Kentucky, all right? And then the others are in Indiana. And so you can see we've got Muncie, Greenwood, Terre Haute, Warsaw, Lafayette, Maryville, and some training goes on in South Bend as well. Okay, next. Our Ohio training centers then are located near Columbus, Monroe, Richfield, and Rossford. And those are generally going to be located around Cincinnati, Toledo, and Cleveland, along with Columbus. Okay. All right, next. So let's talk a little bit about what each of these trades do. Okay. So the carpenter, like I said, I think everybody, when they think of carpenter, they think of wood framing, building houses, building furniture, right? We don't do, well, we don't do any of that. What we do is a lot the industrial side of the house. So we do some wood, absolutely, but a lot of our work is metal studs, drywall, concrete, door hardware. And people don't think about this, but if you go into a hospital or a school, there's door hardware. We're talking about the handles, the hinges, the locks that are, with the codes or the keypads, those kind of things. Scaffolding. And I don't know if our audience understands what scaffolding is, but if you see a big complex going up like a hospital, it's all that metal work on the outside, and sometimes that goes up a lot, really
Very
far.
high.
Very high. And so you have to be certified to put those up, and that makes sense, right? So scaffolding is big, especially up in the northwest region of Indiana around Chicago. And so scaffolding is a big deal with the carpenters. Stair and roof framing, again, that's where your wood would come in. And then we do a lot of level and layout, which means that we're laying out the foundation for those buildings. Okay. So a lot of it's very technical. A lot of it requires safety. And the Carpenters Union is very strict on safety. The other occupation is the millwright. And I'm going to guess there's going to be a lot of people out there that have no idea what a millwright is. Okay. The quickest, easiest way to explain this is they're an industrial mechanic. And when you think of like a car mechanic, explode that into big pieces of equipment, right? So again, blueprint reading is a huge skill they have to have. Welding with certifications. So we offer AWS, American Welding Society certifications. Laser alignment. So our folks use lasers to align pieces of equipment in a factory or an energy plant. Those precision instruments, and we're talking very precise, right? Turbines, conveyors, rigging. And when I say rigging, it's a stationary crane that picks up big pieces of equipment and moves it safely from one area to the next. So that's what a quick look at what our millwrights do. And then another trade that we offer, which I think I get so excited about this one, floor cover. People don't think about it, right? So if you think about the floors that are put down in schools, hospitals, stadiums, everything on a big scale, again, is industrial and commercial. And so blueprint reading is important there too. You learn to stretch carpets. You're gonna actually weld, and that's kind of a different concept. You're gonna weld sheet vinyl together in a hospital situation because no water or bacteria should be able to get behind that, right? So you're in a clean area. It has to be It has to be perfect. Pattern matches, subfloors, stair treads, all these things, patching and leveling concrete before you lay another floor on it. So again, that's all very precise work, and it's kind of it's a cool trade. Okay, next. So before I go any further, I said that these are apprenticeships. Okay, what is that, right? So
Mm.
let's talk a little bit about what a registered apprenticeship is. And that word registered is important. Our programs and many other, most of the union trades are registered and recognized through the US Department of Labor. Okay. So that means that there are some strict rules that we have to follow. And that goes along with these 5 components. So all registered apprenticeships have to have these 5 components according to the United States Department of Labor. Okay. First of all, they have to have rigorous classroom training that connects to what you're going to be doing out in the field. Right. Doesn't make any sense that you're doing a I don't know, a basket weaving class if you're going to go out and weld all day, right? So it has to be related to the training and the work that you're going to be doing. It's paid work hours. All registered apprenticeships are paid. Okay. Training with industry professionals. So you're going to come to us in the training centers for your classroom training. And then when you're not with us, you're going to be out on the work site getting paid and also training, because those people out on the job site are the ones you're going to learn the most from, because they're doing it day to day, right? So you're working alongside industry professionals. Your wages are going to increase in our program every 6 months after successfully completing the class and work hours that are required for those 6 months. Okay, so you're being bumped up every 6 months, as long as you're doing your job and you're coming to class, right? And then at the end of that apprenticeship, you will be getting a completion certificate from the Department of Labor that says you completed this quality program. And then on top of that, for our programs, when you're in it, you're also registered as an Ivy Tech student. Okay. And if everything goes well, you complete all of the coursework, the work hours, and there are 4 Ivy Tech classes that you have to take, then you qualify for your Associates of Applied Science from Ivy Tech. And so that's at no cost. None of that costs anything for the student or for the apprentice. Okay. And so along the way, you're also getting numerous industry certifications. So American Welding Society certs, ICRA certs, which these are, ICRA stands for Infectious Control and Risk Assessment. So this is specifically for working in a hospital situation. Okay. Think about it. How many times have you been in a medical facility that they're doing construction at the same time as they're treating patients, right? So we have to make sure that we're controlling the dust and the germs that we're introducing into the atmosphere. And so there's a whole training, there's a whole class around that. Okay. We also train hospital personnel as well. You're going to go OSHA 10, and if you choose to, you can get OSHA 30. Again, rigging qualification certs. You have to be qualified and certified to be able to work rigging, to be able to move those heavy pieces of equipment. And like I said before, scaffolding certifications. So all of those are embedded in those classes that you'll be taking with us. And once completed, all journey workers mean anybody who has completed a registered apprenticeship program and is able to teach others. That's what a journey worker means. Anybody who wants to come back to their local training center for continuing education can do so free of charge. Okay. Now, I want to mention one more thing. If you would go back to that previous slide real quick, if you can. Sorry. One last thing about the associate's degree. We are also working on translating that into a bachelor's degree with some universities. So if you want to go on for a bachelor's degree, you can. Okay. I just wanted to mention that.
Mm.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about the program details. So those three programs I just talked about, the carpenter, the millwright, and the floor coverer, are each 4 years in length. So when you come to the apprenticeship, you have to know up front it's going to be 4 years before you're done. Okay. Every 3 months, then you're coming back to your training center to take one class. So they're week-long classes. You don't work during that week. If you're coming from a far distance, then we'll put you up in a hotel, okay, for that week. And then after that week's done, you go back to work, okay? Again, as I mentioned before, there's 4 general education classes that apprentices have to take through Ivy Tech. And again, that's no cost. They can be either taken online or sometime in a hybrid format, which means that you might meet 2 days and then the rest of it's online. Okay. All other times, the apprentice is working in the field with one of our signatory contractors. And you're earning more than a living wage, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. All apprentices have to complete at least 5,200 work hours with one of our contractors over the course of that 4-year apprenticeship. And so we always tell folks, if you want to get this done on time, go to work, be there. Your employer needs to be able to depend on you. There are times that employers have had to lay people off. They'll keep an apprentice versus somebody that's older just because they show up all the time. Okay. So be there and be ready to work. The only thing apprentices pay for in this program are their monthly union dues, and that varies as to where you're at, but anywhere between $15 to $25 a month, somewhere along there. Okay, so it's not that much. You pay for your work clothes and your boots, of course, and your tools. Now, the tools, though, are split up into 5 different lists. So, for instance, to start, you have to have a list of tools, and it's pretty minimal. Okay. That next year, they're going to add another list. The following year, you're going to get another list of tools that you need. So you're gradually building your tools up to have a full set by the time you're done. Okay. So it's not something you have to invest in right away. Next. This is a little video I wanted to show if it works.
I don't think it does, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, I can send you the link, Estrella, and you can, include
Awesome.
that. I'll just send the link to our website. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry about that, but this was a really good one because this is a young mother who was working a low-paying job and decided to get into the apprenticeship, and is doing a lot of work out in the solar fields and is making a great income and supporting her 2 kids. So, okay. All right. So there's a lot of myths around registered apprenticeships. And I know we're talking to high school primarily, right? And apprenticeships are open to anybody, either young people, those without skills, but they also apply to older folks. We get people coming in after they leave the military, after they transition out of the military. We have older folks who have families, like the previous little video, where she's coming in after she's worked and realizes she needs to do something different. So apprentices come from all walks of life, and they've had a lot of different types of experiences. We even have people with bachelor's and master's degrees who come to us for this training. Wow. So there's people with enough experience and time in this trade even to enter into the union right as a journey worker. So there's people with experience in residential carpentry and plenty of people with no experience. That's okay. That's what we do. We train people up. So I think for students to understand, you're going to be working with people from across the board, all the way across the board, right? You're going to come in if you get into the apprenticeship, you're going to come in with a class, basically, right? And you all kind of track together, so you form those bonds. But there's going to be people older than you. There's going to be people your age. There's going to be people all over the place, right? Which is kind of cool. I want to give you just a brief look at what the application process. And remember, this is all based on the needs of our contractors, right? So if they need a lot of people, this might be shortened. If they don't need so many people, it may take, like, you may have to go through all these steps. So it just depends on what's going out there, out there in the industry, what's going on. But in general, you're going to submit an application, and that's through our website. Okay. When you submit your application, okay, make sure, this is so hard for people, it seems like it's kind of like making a resume. Make
Mhm.
sure you get any kind of experiences on that application that might apply. Okay. Even if it's helping your grandpa build something, or you know, um, doing some landscaping, or you're, working for somebody who cuts lawns, anything like that needs to go onto that application. Any certifications, if you've been through a welding program in your high school class and you've got a certification, put it down. Okay. If you, I don't know how many of your students, Australia, would be coming from like a CTE program, or but if they do, that's
Yeah,
really important to put down.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Make sure that gets on that application someplace. And there may be on that application a little thing that says articulated program. That means what high school did you come from that had a construction program? Okay. Or welding or something like that. All right. So once you submit that application, get all that information in there, you'll get an automated email, right? And that's to schedule a meeting with a business rep. Okay. You'll go through an interview. There's a drug test. You have to pass the drug test. You cannot enter without it. Okay. There's a member onboarding with your placement. So here's what you got to do next. So it's next steps, basically. You're going to, oh, I don't know, this kind of looks different, doesn't it? Applicant enters, that's what it's supposed to say. Applicant enters the apprenticeship. So you have to get through all that first part before you can enter into the apprenticeship. Okay. You'll fill out your paperwork for the Department of Labor, and you'll be scheduled for your classes. Okay.
Mm. I think that's really good that you kind of share a visual with the students of what that process looks like. As I'm looking at this, I'm wondering, every organization, every program is different. And again, just a question, is there financial aid options? I know that sometimes students, when they think about, going to trade school or getting an apprenticeship, whatever has to do with, working with their hands, I think sometimes what stops them, or they have questions about is that financial aid. Are there any financial aid options for students who may be interested?
No. And the reason is because it doesn't cost anything. Now, the education itself doesn't cost anything. Now, there are, for the tools, the work
Right.
clothes and the work boots, there are options there. And all of those will come through the Work One centers in the area. So that's Employee Indy within the
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis. And then there's Region 5 Work Ones in the Donut County. So they're all throughout the state. And so if a student needs that kind of help, maybe I think I have some resources I can share with you on that. Okay.
Awesome.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. So, I can go through all of that, and it sounds fairly similar to everybody else's, but so why join a construction trades apprenticeship? Well, you will get state-of-the-art training with certifications. And when I say state-of-the-art, we're hearing directly from our employers saying, hey, We've got some nuclear work coming up. We're looking at nuclear power plants again in this state. Can you guys develop training for that? So that's what we do. So we're right on the edge of what's coming in, right? So we're always updating our training, making sure that people have the best training for what our contractors need. Another a good reason is employment while you learn, and the wages are good. Kids don't think about this. Insurance, your pension, your annuity, which are
Very
retirement
important.
funds, all paid for by your contractors. You don't pay your own insurance. You don't pay your pension. That's paid by our contractors into a fund for you. So that's huge. And if you've ever had, I'm talking with students, if they've ever had a
Yes.
job and they, you're still going to have to pay taxes. Nobody can get
Exactly.
around
Right.
that. Right. But a couple others, there's a chance for growth and long-term career. And if you're willing and you want to travel with this trade, you can go anywhere you want. And I mean, literally
Wow.
across the country, internationally. Okay. And that too will all be paid by your employer.
Nice.
So just an idea of what the wages are. And these are older wages. Okay. But if you start down where it says apprentice on that lower half, right in there, probation, you're going to be in a probationary period when you first enter. And that's what you're going to be making per hour, $23.60 according to this. Okay. $23.60 an hour, plus your health and welfare means insurance. Okay. And your total benefits. Now, as you get in and you pass that probationary period, now your pension and everything starts adding up. Okay. Mm-hmm. But as you can see, by the time your fourth year in this particular wage sheet, you're making over $35 an hour. Okay. Which this changes every year with the new contract. So it will only go up. All right. So they're good wages, and it's the insurance and the retirement that people don't think about, but it's good. So that's pretty much my little spiel on registered apprenticeships, and in particular with our trade, the carpenter, millwright, and floor cover trades. But remember, and this goes for anything you do, you're going to get as much out of a registered apprenticeship as you're willing to put into it, right? If you show up to work, you work hard while you're there, you show that you're willing to learn new things and that you're willing to take direction from people, and you can continue to grow in your skill sets, you're going to be successful. But the reality is it is not for everyone. It's hard work. It is hard work, but it's a really good career for those who want it. And if you want it, you have to prove it to your contractor every day. And so great opportunities out there if you want to join. All right.
Thank you so much. I think all this information is extremely valuable. Even myself as an education specialist, I'm learning, what is an apprenticeship? What does that look like? How much can you be gaining? What will that look like throughout, the next couple of years of your life? I'm hopeful that the students who receive this information look into it. I know I have a lot of students who love to work with their hands, so providing them with these resources are extremely important. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to share that information with us. One question that I have, so we can wrap it up. The students who are watching this video who are interested, in working with their hands, or maybe looking at this and considering joining, what is some piece of advice you would give to those students? What is something that you can tell them to help them encourage them to take that first step?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you like working with your hands, you have to be able to willingly go out and put yourself out there and ask people for jobs. You have to go out, right? The other thing I would suggest, and kids don't like to hear this, I'm sorry, but this is nothing but math. You have to have math.
Yes.
This is math and science. Construction is math and science.
Nice.
Now, the math that you do, is it going to be writing formulas and, doing, equations? No, not generally. But when you have to calculate the slope of a roof or the rise and fall of steps, yeah,
Yep.
that's if you're trying to move a big heavy piece of equipment from point A to point B in the most efficient way, you have to determine
Mm-hmm.
angles, weight
Yep.
distributions. It's math. It may be stuff that and this is the other thing. If you can do it up here, but you can't put it on the paper, then you're math oriented. You're
Mm-hmm.
still math oriented.
Exactly.
So it's, yeah. Don't shy away from the idea of math because that's what we do. So, and like I said, and don't be afraid to ask questions and be willing to absorb.
Perfect. Perfect way to end it. Thank you so much, Claire. I think that piece of advice is really important. I think a lot of students need to hear that, right? Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid, take risks. And that really, it is really the power of networking, putting yourself out there and um, achieving what you want to achieve. Thank you so much, Claire. And
Right.
for all the students watching, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, you all can learn from this and get connected. Thank you.